This is Elaine with Captivate the Mic, and I am so excited for this amazing episode that I got to do with Ron Reich, all about leadership, mission statements, workplace culture. Dig in, you're going to love it. So happy that you're here. Welcome, everybody, to Captivate the Mic with Elaine Williams, and I have the biggest treat for everybody. This is the first male on the podcast because he is such an amazing, spiritual, earnest, good-hearted master, trainer, communicator, friend, Ron Reich. I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us.
Well, Elaine, it's always so good to see you, and I'm always glad to be here.
I always have so much fun with you, Ron, because we both love human potential and training, and there's so many nuances, and I just love that. And that's one reason I wanted to have you. And you give us hope because unfortunately, many women, I work mostly with women, but sometimes we've had to deal with gentlemen who were not quite so evolved as you. And I say that with love, and I know it's a gross generalization, and we're going to dig into that. But I love you have been a consultant, you train all over the world. I keep hoping that I'm going to get you to write a book. What is your opinion in what's happening? We're in the first part of 2025, and on social media, it has been like, whoa, everything's like a dumpster fire. I'd love to know what your take is on it. What has the vibe been for you and your trainings and your business world?
I think, Elaine, right now, what's happening, I think a lot of people are taking a step back, and I'm not sure I want to say reevaluating. I think they're taking a step back and just trying to take a deep breath and evaluate, okay, this is what's going on from so many different perspectives. How does it impact me? How does it impact my business? And what do we need to do moving forward? And for me, that does make sense. It really does. One of the biggest mistakes people make is are making decisions based on emotion or just reacting so quickly. And it's like, okay, stop everything or move forward. Oh my goodness,
Right.
quickly, everybody. And it's all right, settle down. Let's take a look at this. And again, the thing I always recommend to people, Elaine, is within emotional intelligence, the PRD model. If I'm emotional or if I need to make a decision and I'm being pressed, PRD, pause, reflect, and then decide, how am I going to handle this? Do I need to respond on the spot? Can I ask for some time? Elaine, I need to think about this. You need to give me a day to think this through. Maybe I need to get some advice from somebody else before I make a decision. And I think a lot of people are just taking a step back, reevaluating, and just saying, okay, this is what's happening. What do we need to do? And for me, no matter what, I am such a big believer, and you know this, in the serenity prayer of just God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot
Right.
change. I can't change what's going on around me right now. I can't. I just have no control over that. What do
Right.
I control? My reaction. How do I deal with these types of things? And just letting people know, clients, friends, family, whatever it might be, is like, okay, here again, this is my thinking on this. We are going to be okay. We are. And I believe that with every fiber I have, too. I really do. As a nation and just as everything, we'll be okay. And as with any type of new situation, there's going to be some rough spots. There are going to be some bumps. Of course, there are. So be it.
Mm,
So be it.
I love that because I know when I'm on my spin bike, that's when I scroll. And luckily, I've been focusing more on music and dance because the Grammys so inspired me last week.
Yeah,
But it does feel like there's a lot of people going, the sky is falling, the sky is falling.
that's
And
right.
what's interesting is I like to think of myself as not so reactive, but maybe I should just stop scrolling for a week because I still feel like
That's
it
right.
gets in my psyche and my
Yes.
soul.
Well, and see, Elaine, that's one of the things over which we have control.
Right.
And that's exactly right. And yeah, I get that. And one thing too, and actually this is just occurring to me in the moment. The one thing that I talk to people about when we're talking about change in the workplace or really anywhere is that okay, what's the goal of the change? What's the goal of the change? The raw part and all that, fine. One thing though that I always like to recommend to people too, what's not changing? What's not changing for you?
Oh
And
my gosh, I love that. It's so profound, but it's like an anchor, isn't it?
exactly, Elaine, exactly. For example, you saying, I'm on my spin bike. That's not changing, Elaine. And for me too, I'm still walking Jasmine every day. We're still
Oh,
going for our walk runs, whatever it might be. Lori's still here. It's okay. These things are not changing. So, yes, the world has shifted and there's a lot going on. It's not, oh my goodness, everything in my life is different now. That's not true. That's
I
just
love
not
that. But
true.
yeah, human beings, we don't like change. We all know it's part of life and all the things. But I love that. And I do feel like this is a great analogy for some of the stuff that's happening in the US right now. And because you are a change agent, you get brought in to help with workplace culture, help define the missions, help people be more effective. You're always doing stuff like this. And I love that. First of all, this is what's not going to change. Da, da, da. That's so okay. Everybody take a deep breath. All right.
That's right. Take a deep breath. We're still, still have a roof over my head, just all of these things. And you know what, Elaine, if you don't mind, because you're reminding me of something else, and I don't think you and I have actually ever talked about this.
Okay.
Here's another model that I like to recommend to clients. This is more of when you need to have a difficult conversation with somebody, although off the top of my head, I think it applies to change as well. And very simply, you ask the people with whom you're working, or if it's one colleague, whatever it might be. First of all, I'm sorry, here's the situation itself. Spell it out. And on a document, spell it out. Here's the situation with which we're dealing. Second, what's wrong with it? In other words,
Anyway,
your
why are we changing?
perspective, how is your perspective different than mine? How is it different than mine? Write it down. And then thirdly, and this is the part that I really like, what could be right about it? What could
Mm-hmm.
be right about what I've talked to you about or what we are considering here? And then last and not least, what are the steps we need to take in order to solve this issue? Real quickly, I'll give you an example.
Please.
Years
Yeah.
ago, I'm working for a vendor, okay, 2 day class. At the end of each day, day one, they asked us to do a real quick written survey with the participants. Just a quick snapshot. How did the day go for you? Small group, 7 people. End of the day. And I'm thinking to myself, we had a great day. Just a great day. I'm sure I'm flipping through the evals. I'm like, oh, yeah, we had a great.
Oh,
I got to
dun
the
dun
last
dun.
one and I was like,
Ah, the last one.
wait a minute. The feedback she had written down, you talked too much. And I was thinking to myself, okay, first of all, everybody had left. So I was the only one in the room. So I didn't need to pause and reflect. I wasn't going to say something quickly. Being serious again. My first reaction, no way, no way, no chance, no. I did not talk too much. I don't do that. It's about a 10-minute walk from the office back to the hotel where I stay. I was in DC. The entire walk back, Elaine, I'm thinking it
No.
was no chance. No,
Right.
I'm thinking
Oh,
to myself, I know what's going on here. I do. Yep. She's a know-it-all. She's got a big mouth, and she thinks she's the cat's meow here. It wasn't me. No chance. So I get back to the room. I'm sitting there, and I'm still thinking about it. And now I start to think about something my old boss, the best boss, we had her on the show, Barbara Fulmer, said to me years and years ago. You know what, Ron? Every once in a while, it seems to me it happens maybe once a year, maybe every 15 months or so. You fall into the trap where you tend to tell all the stories in class and you don't give the participants the opportunity to tell stories. I
mm.
was thinking to myself, you know what? Self talk. Ron, you're falling into that trap. You're falling into
Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
that trap. And my point is simply using the model. What was the situation? Ron, you talk too much. What's wrong with it? No, she's a big mouth. She's a know it all. No chance. No. What could be right about it? And then I was like, wow, there is some merit to it. And Elaine, to this day, I still don't completely agree with her comment that I talk too much. There was some merit to it. So, what did I do the next day in order to solve the problem? Hey, folks, who has a story about this?
Right. No, so does that mean you got the feedback in the middle of the training?
Exactly. This was after
Oh,
day one. We still had day two to go. So, I changed my behavior and boom.
I love that. I'm like, oh, I always think of getting feedback at the end, but that's even more brilliant. And then one of my mentors talks about letting people put their voice into the room. And I know I've always in group dynamics, believe it or not, I used to be shy, but I always feel like I'm really getting that I'm in the class or the workshop or the seminar when I've gotten to share or process. Like that just means I'm like, I'm in, I'm engaged. And I also know because I have a tendency to be vulnerable and sometimes funny, and sometimes by me going and being vulnerable, I've seen it happen where it gives other people permission to do the same. And so that's one of the reasons when I'm in a group dynamic, I will try. And then I also consciously will be like, shut up, Elaine, because I love to talk too. It's a different situation, but I really try to consciously be aware of how much am I putting my voice in the room.
Again, Elaine, you're reminding me of something that my old colleague Dave pointed out to me many years ago, and I always remembered this. He was like, Ron, he said, remember, he said, the women in your classes, often, not always, many of them will be hesitant to speak up quickly. Give them time, give them time as they get to know you better, as they become more comfortable, and as they get more comfortable with their surroundings, they will start sharing. And that has been my direct experience where, again, I need to be aware, just again, using you as the example here. Oh, Elaine, she's so quiet over there. She doesn't say anything. Give her a chance, give everybody a chance because you're not sure what's going on. And that goes back to, again, for me, Elaine, let's tie it into how critical relationships are. If I'm doing a session where I don't know the people, I want to be in that room at least an hour before we start. So when people come in, I can chat with them. I can get to know them a little bit. More importantly, they can get to know me a little bit
You're
and
building
realize
rapport. It's so great.
exactly, exactly. He's a nice guy. Oh, okay. We're already talking just a little bit about maybe the content or whatever it might be. I don't need to be as nervous as I was. And that is so important just to, again, establishing the rapport, establishing the psychological safety, And that's where it's home. And all of a sudden, who has a story about this? I do, I'll add to that. And the best thing that can happen for me is for me to just keep my mouth
Yeah.
shut.
And facilitate. And to me, that is true mastery when you can step back and create the space and allow the others to come in and do the work, if you will. Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Someone, a master facilitator, I read this somewhere or someone shared it with me, just said, you know that you are really doing a good job when you can sit back and drink tea.
And now a quick message. If you are a speaker, coach, author, or someone who wants to climb the corporate ladder and you know you need to work on your executive presence, your ability to speak powerfully and succinctly with vocal variety and vocal power and presence, I would love to have a chat with you and see if it's the right fit. Now, we're back to the show. Yep.
And let everybody just do their thing. It's, yeah, I don't have to worry about anything. They're doing all the talking.
Yes, I have heard a version of that as well. I love that. And so I would love to ask you, I've had the privilege of knowing you and working with you for a while. I would love for you to talk about maybe the company you're working with, helping them create a mission statement that they really own, that it's not just here, we're putting this on you. And yeah, tell us
Elaine,
about that.
this has been so much fun. It really has. I met Jeff at a session, and we were talking just randomly, just chatting. I knew he was the owner of a heavy duty towing company in the Midwest. And we're just chatting a little bit. And I'm just trying to get to know him. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, Ron," he said, "things are going so well." He said, "I'm just so happy with where we are. We're growing and so forth." And he said to me, he said, "The one thing I want, I'd like to establish a formal culture." And I was like, wow, okay. We talked some more. One thing leads to the next. And I talked to him in depth. I talked to his right hand man, if you will, in depth as well. I was ready to go out there and we were ready to start doing the actual work to help them to develop a culture. Yeah, he talked, what do you want to accomplish and what's it like to work there, and just all these other things. And then I got a call from Maya, who was the second in command. He said to me, "We're going in a different direction." My instant reaction was, uh-oh, I just lost this.
Right.
Instead of coming out, Ron, and doing the work, what we'd like you to do, would you please come out here and spend some time with us just so we can get to know each other better? We'd like you to spend time with some of the drivers of the trucks. Get to know the people who work here. Take a look at who we are, how we do things, what the current culture is. And I was like, you guys, if you're willing to do that, is fabulous, because I did that in another life before, and I don't need to get into that part right now. Long story short, I went out there for 3 days and had so much fun, just so much fun, spending time with all different kinds of people. The top people in the organization, the people, the customer service reps, the people in the office. I was out in the field with some of the tow truck drivers, going to accident scenes, just talking with them. What's it like to work here? What's it all about? And that is so important to gather all of that information, because this way everybody owns it. In other words, once we
Mm,
start doing the actual formal culture work, it's not, okay, folks, from senior management, this is what we've decided
right.
culture will be. As no, so many different people at so many different levels had input into it. And I won't get into all of the details here, Elaine. In a day and a half, actually a day and 3 quarters, we established defined values for the organization. We came up with a formal culture statement by which
Okay.
everybody agrees and by which everybody will live. And it was fun. It was fun. It was an intense day and 3 quarters. Everybody, because again, these people are not used to this kind of work, sitting down
Sure.
and just, we were doing a lot of stand up activities. I don't mean to imply we were sitting the whole time, still in a totally different type of thinking in which they were involved. And it was, it's always fun. And I find it funny. At the end of day one, all of them were just like, I am so tired. I can't see straight. I'm just so tired. And I was
They
like,
weren't used to using their brains that
yeah,
much. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And at the end of day two, same thing. And then, though, the key is what we decided to do. Those were the first 2 days with the more senior leaders, although we had input from a lot of people. Then we had the managers come in for day 3 and 4. We took them through the entire process of how we came up with the values, the defined values, the culture statement. And then we talked about how they could use it, what was important to them, what was applicable to them. And it's working.
Wow.
It's just working.
And so you started with the people that were not in leadership at first?
I talked to the leaders in the initial conversations, yes. And then once I went out there, Elaine, the senior leaders were not very involved at all. No, not at all. And to me, that is such a sign of psychological
Trust.
safety that Jeff, the owner, and the other leaders have created. And the information people were sharing with me was amazing. It was just like, oh, I love it here. I love it here. It is so much fun. And also, not just the fun stuff. There are some things we need to do differently. There's no two ways about it. And
Right.
the other thing people need to be aware of here, and I give Jeff and Maya so much credit and the other leaders, because I said to them up front, is like, you need to be aware of a couple things here, folks. Number one, you're probably going to lose some people. Some people are going to leave. Whereas I don't like this. I don't want anything to change here. And they were like, we know that. And that's okay. And I said,
Okay.
equally as important, you may very well need to let some people go who are not going to buy into this. And they're like, we know that too. And that it just doesn't get any better than that. And again, it's all about what is best for this organization.
But and also what I'm hearing though is I think one of the reasons I get so excited talking with Ron is like so many people, I worked in a lot of hotel, restaurant, comedy clubs, and there were many toxic environments. And a lot of times everyone was just doing the best they could, but so many times people got promoted because they were there, or
Yeah,
because sometimes
exactly.
it's like the worst reason
That's
why people get promoted. And then they're trained to do the checkouts, but they're not trained how to manage people or how to motivate, how to communicate. And so I get so excited because I think what would be possible. And one of the things, thinking about you working with the people who were not in the leadership, so many times the your people in lines dealing with clients and customers, the ones in the trenches, a lot of times they have insights, brilliant things, because they know what it's like to execute or not. They
exactly.
are they're on the front lines, and many times in my experience, the higher ups don't listen. So many times you have these people who want to contribute, then yes, there's always a couple who want to complain, but a lot of times there's people who want to contribute or who have ideas. But if you keep squelching that down, they go, you know what? Quiet quitting. What? Fine.
And
And
that's
it's
it.
heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking when you care about what you do and you put pride in whatever. If you're digging ditches, you're like, I want to be the best ditch digger, and I have a better idea about how to be more efficient. Anyway, so I just think there's so much healing that happens. Like
Oh,
that experience of
there's
being
no
heard, being
doubt about
seen,
it.
being gotten, being appreciated. Like that is, I when I was an employee, I would just feel like so much loyalty if I felt like my manager knew what I was up to and understood my goals and what drove me. I would work holidays and weekends and the shitty shifts because
Yeah.
they got me. They'd be like, Elaine, can you scrub this with a toothbrush? I'd be like, yes, you got it. Because I felt like I was in partnership with them. But then when I had the experience of working with a lot of, no offense, alpha males who, for whatever reasons, it was like oil and water, or I was a high I and they were a D, all that stuff. I would feel myself like really detaching and not having the best attitude because I just felt so frustrated and not respected, not heard, not gotten. So, anyway, I think the work that you do is so profound. And that is the end of part 1 with Ron Reich and leadership. Make sure you stay tuned for part 2, where he goes deeper into so many great things.